Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel for another Game Week 3 preview. Today I'm joined by Jian Batra to first of all have a look back at Game Week 2 and assess your team, my friend, into the top 700k. A phenomenal start for you with over 90 points last week. But then we're going to have a look at Game Week 3 and see how your team is looking for that and get some more general tips and advice on the state of play in FPL. Important to note as well that you have already made a transfer at the time of recording. So, yeah, first of all, you're doing very well at the start of the season, but transfer's been made.
Yeah, so thanks, Jack. Always a pleasure to be back on. The transfer has been made, and it's probably one of the more obvious ones you were thinking of. And Nkunku has left because didn't really want to swallow the price drop unnecessarily. Thought if he's not going to get the expected minutes, there are so many good options out there. I'm not really going to, deprive myself of that opportunity. So he has gone, and Rodgers has come in his place for a variety of reasons. Not just the fixtures and the fact that I think he could do all right in terms of output and returns, but also the 1.5 mil it frees up to reinvest elsewhere, which I'm sure we'll touch on down the line.
Yeah. Just before we get onto your team for the upcoming week, and obviously, yeah, Rodgers is a great pick. What do you think's happened with Nkunku? You know a lot about Chelsea Football Club. Is he completely dead as a pick? Do you think that people that maybe have already eaten that price drop should look to get him out anyway, or is now a time for maybe some patience?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of unknowns with Maresca's Chelsea side at the moment, more so than I thought there'd be at the start of the season. I thought that Nkunku was pretty much nailed to play one of those central spots. I thought that, especially because Jackson didn't have the longest preseason, he'd either play at 9, because he's very competent playing there, or he'd play at the top of the box where Palmer played against Wolves, and then Palmer would be on the right. I didn't expect him to start on the left against City, and I definitely didn't expect him to be benched against Wolves. But the fact that Chelsea have also signed João Felix, the fact that Madueke has just scored a hat-trick, so you can't drop him, right? And Palmer looks so good at the top of the box. He seems to really like Jackson at the moment, Maresca, or at least more so than I thought he would. And thus, I think you're probably just gambling every single game. He's probably not going to play 90 anyway. He doesn't have penalties. You may as well just probably get rid because the upside looks to have gone.
And I think what you said at the beginning as well is very important. Like, it's not as if there are no other options. There are a lot of options at that price bracket. I mean, you have Smith Rowe, for example, who's done very well for you. Would you have potentially gone for Smith Rowe over Rodgers if you didn't already have him? Or just, comparing those sort of 6.5 million midfielders and below, where do you sort of rank those options?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about it yesterday. I think between those two, it's super close and quite perspective dependent. I think with Smith Rowe, one thing you have is probably better positioning. He doesn't have to do as much of the progressive work that Rodgers had to do against Arsenal. I think he'll have to do less of that against, for example, Leicester. But still, you get Smith Rowe a little bit higher up. I probably trust his finishing a little bit more, but on the flip side, Rodgers is cheaper and he has better fixtures. So I think it's incredibly close between the two. I'd probably go Rodgers just for the extra 0.5 freed up in cash and the fact that I think Smith Rowe's best fixture is gone, whereas Rodgers has still got both Leicester away and also Ipswich away, which Smith Rowe has. So I'd go Rodgers, but only marginally. Yeah,
it's close though, isn't it? Were you tempted by anyone else in that price? In yesterday's video, we had Jonas on. He sold Nkunku for Gibbs White.
Yes. So if you remember my first draft, I had Gibbs White and I was bigging him up. I just think that maybe the hype's got a little bit too much for him in this week because of the goal he scored and the fact he got points. But his open play goal threat in the first 2 games hadn't really been there. It hadn't really been there in preseason either, hence why I jumped off. And I just think that sure, he has good fundamentals in terms of penalties and 90 minutes. But to expect returns, especially goals from him consistently, is probably unsustainable with the way he's playing at the moment and just his role. So for me, I much prefer Smith Rowe and Rodgers for both the cash and just general output. And then even if not them, I like the Brighton boys a little bit. I like Minter potentially as well. So yeah for me, I'm not on Morgan Gibbs White.
Now, I remember we talked about this at the beginning of the season. You said, just open play threat is just not really enough to warrant you going there, even though he was in your team. You were wavering about him. And how many goals did he score last year in open play? I was like, it just really wasn't that many at all. I remember you told me the number and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know how many penalties he scored in the last 2 seasons, but he's got 5 in each of them. And especially with the game becoming tougher and tougher and people being able to flip transfers from one premium to the next so quickly, goal threat is so important and 5's just not enough.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Okay, let's talk about the rest of your team. As the viewers can see, it's a little bit different to, well, quite different to other teams that I have on well, that we have on the channel. Sales has been really good. I
Yeah,
mean, a nice pick, right? Just to
thank
go
you.
against the Flecken or well, mainly Henderson, who's been completely awful. Sales looks good, and as you mentioned at the start of the season, pre-season, the Forest numbers are regressing, or improve, getting back towards what you'd expect from the underlying data in terms of clean sheets, and yeah, Sales has been obviously a big beneficiary of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that it's worked out because I really did think that his opening three were just the best by some way.
Yeah,
Obviously, I guess the upside of that move has been offset by how well Raya's done. But I don't think I could have accounted for that. So yeah, overall, really happy with him. It would have been an unreal start had he got that 10-pointer against Bournemouth. But they
yeah,
conceded pretty much right at the end to
very unlucky.
somewhat unlucky goal. But overall, I'm really happy with him, especially because Henderson hasn't really been putting up the goods so far.
I mean, Henderson might as well just not be in the team at this point. And it's so annoying because I say this every year, and people are, and it's a common thing that you do not want to make a transfer on a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but I'm thinking if there is a keeper out there that is consistently getting more points than your keeper, I know keepers are relatively unpredictable a lot of the time, which is why people say it's not worth the transfer, and the opportunity cost of not using that somewhere else in your team is obviously big. But I don't know. I feel like it does get overlooked as a position quite a lot. And all of a sudden, after this game week, Sales, I would assume, would be a good 10 points ahead of Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a pretty similar wavelength to you, whereby I think that if your team's in a good state, you could maybe transfer out Henderson. He's got Leicester at home game week 4, which I don't actually think is a bank clean sheet anyway. But
No.
apart from that, the fixtures aren't really that good. And Palace's defense really doesn't look too good at the moment.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, I like the Sanchez option. I built my own like game week 3 wildcard for those who are playing it, and I had Sanchez, and I actually quite like that option. So if you can move, I think it's a good one.
Yeah. Again, it's just like, I don't know. Even though I've said what I've just said, I'm still like, oh, is it worth the transfer? But yeah, I just don't see any clean sheets at all for Palace. And there's rumours today that there's been a big bid for Gay from Arsenal, I think, for 70 million or something like that. I don't know if you
Really?
saw that. Yeah. I mean,
Ah,
who knows if it's true or not? Who knows if
yeah.
it's true? But just
Okay.
something I saw this morning. So well, the main point being, Anderson's gone. There's still a lot of noise about Gay. Glasner has said himself that it's unsettling, and it's not a surprise that it's having an effect on the team.
Hmm.
Obviously lost Elise as well, which isn't great. But yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the keepers and defense. Gabriel, a
Yeah.
player that was in my team for a long time. Got rid of him in the end, but he's been pretty good. Looks solid. You've got
Yeah,
to
I
be happy with
mean,
that.
Arsenal defenders pretty much just Mr. Consistent, right?
Yeah,
The way I look at him is the next six, I'm trying to get 3 clean sheets out of him. I think that's a fair amount given the Arsenal boys how good they are. And then maybe one attacking return. I think in the first 8 game weeks, asking for 1 goal isn't too much from him. So
no,
yeah, if I can get one of those, that would be really, really solid. And for me, like I said, it's just a set and forget, at least until like that fixture swing where it's like Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea in a row.
are you thinking about wildcarding in any particular week at the moment, or just open to see what happens?
So I saw preseason that there was quite a big fixture swing, and the biggest one, maybe game week 12, I think I heard.
Okay.
I didn't pay too much attention to it because like I knew that things would change. 12 weeks down the line in FPL was such a ridiculous amount. There's no point even planning for it.
Yeah.
I did, however, look at 3 and 6 or 4 and 6, which people are fancied beforehand are still fancy, and I didn't like either of them. I think in 4, people were looking at taking out Arsenal assets, and in 6, they were looking at bringing them back in, and that was
Yeah.
like a major reason for the wild card. For me, I'm just holding them all the way throughout. I think I get to save transfers, and they'll get points, so I'm not really looking at an early wild card. I think it could be really nice as a somewhat differential tool down the line.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people will be on Game Week 6 in particular for Arsenal
Yeah,
defensive coverage. Which, if you already have one, you don't necessarily need to double up. I mean, you wouldn't double up now. The fixtures
yeah,
are a little bit
exactly.
tough, and I think Raya has been quite full. I mean,
Yeah,
the last games he obviously made a phenomenal save, but that should have like really. I mean, there was a two big chances for Watkins, and he should have taken at least one of them. Let's talk about the problems in your team then. So Hall, in terms of an option now, what's going on there? Obviously, he didn't play the last game. Got to be a worry for you.
Yeah, I think he might just be sitting on my bench for quite a while. I imagine that most of the transfers will get used up top and in the midfield. And having Gabriel, who I'm cool to play him every week. I think City score against Arsenal, and I think the fixture will be slightly different to what it was last year. I think there'll be a few more goals in there. But I'm still cool to play him, knowing that I have his set piece threat. So he'll play every week. Constance fixtures from 3 to 6 are some of the best I've ever seen. So he'll play every week. And you know what? Robinson's looked really good from open play. Like he has enough attacking threat there. He's obviously got a really good fixture this week. And even though the two fixtures after aren't great, they are both at home. And for those reasons, I think I'll just play him as well. And I'll just let Lewis Hall do his thing on the bench. I mean, if he
Yeah.
does come back into the side and he looks like he's going to play one of the away games where the fixture's a little bit better than Robinson's, that no, I don't mind playing him. But apart from that, I don't really think he's a massive concern given I'm fairly bullish on Robinson.
Yeah. And then finally, the interesting player that you've got is Havertz.
Mm.
He's done pretty well at the start of the season, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be pretty happy with that. What are you thinking in terms of him going forward when he has those two tougher fixtures? Obviously, it looks great this week, but from in 4 and 5, well, I don't know. 4 is probably quite a good fixture actually for
Yeah.
Arsenal with attacking options. Although Tottenham look a little bit better defensively, we'll see when they play against a very good attacking team. But yeah,
Yeah.
what are you thinking there?
So a few things. One, like my plan was at the start of the season to just never sell this guy and just play him week in, week out. I think with his expected minutes being so good and not all the forwards or many of the forwards having that, especially the good ones, I really like that aspect to him. I'm actually a little bit concerned about Game Week 3 compared to Game Week 4. I fancy him in Game Week 4, but Game Week
Wow.
3, I, I definitely think you can get at Brighton and score goals against them. It's just the fact like it's 12:30. They've won both the opening games, Brighton. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it like a little bit tough.
Okay.
But I think if I get through that and get through Game Week 4, I don't really care what happens in Game Week 5. Because I have to keep him in 6, right? So for me, he's just like a never sell option, and I'm just gonna hold him throughout.
I like that way of thinking about it because, like, if you look here, for example, and this is the same on the FPL website as well, the official one. Brighton at home is a green fixture.
Mm.
And I don't think anyone would necessarily argue with that. But
Yeah.
if you think about it as an individual for your individual player and then the potential matchups, does it necessarily suit that player? I think that's what you got to think of quite a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Of
And
course.
who knows? Yeah, I mean, against like a Dunk, is that the best? Is that the best for Havertz? Could he against a Brighton? Yeah, as you said, 12:30. Is it more the case of he could be someone that's bringing others into play in that game? I don't know. It's one of those where you have to individually analyze it.
Yeah, I think overall it is pretty good, and there are a lot of things going for him. I think Brighton is still quite insistent on playing in a positive style, and thus you can get them on transition. And he made a lot of runs beyond Villa's last line that weren't found. I think Arsenal and City in the bigger games tend traditionally to not play those type of balls to Haaland and Havertz just because they want to reduce the amount of risk and keep the ball for longer. I think against Brighton, especially at home, they'll probably be a bit more willing to do that. So I'm fairly bullish on him. I'm just not getting carried away with it because I know
Yeah.
Brighton are a good side and anything could happen. But yeah, for me, just a lock at the moment. There's no real reason when I've got other problems.
Okay. Let's talk about your team going forward then. This is what I like doing the most on Fantasy Football Hub. Just skipping through the game weeks and seeing your potential plans. You're clearly a planner,
Yeah.
and you've had a very good start. So, although you have used now a transfer each week, let's move ahead to game week 4. Have you got any transfers in mind, or would you roll?
No, I have one in mind. It's a little bit annoying because my plan was just to roll for at least a couple of weeks, but I've been making my transfer so early. I'm looking at taking Son out. I think by the time Game Week 4 rolls around, Solanke will be back. And I
Okay.
much, much, much prefer Son at 9 to left wing. I think it's chalk and cheese, right? So if he's
Yeah.
back at left wing, that too against Arsenal, he can go. Because I don't think the Brentford at home fixture when he's playing left wing is particularly brilliant either. So yeah, he can definitely go. And then I can get Cole Palmer. I've got the money in the bank. I'll still have a mil
Oof.
spare.
Yeah.
And the fixtures look really tasty. If he's to continue playing in that role, even if he's playing a right wing, then whatever, he'll be fine because he'll still get some minutes in the middle just through substitutions. I really like the look of getting Cole Palmer back in the team.
So no Salah then. You wouldn't try and find the money elsewhere to go because you'd have if you were to roll. Oh, and actually, no, you wouldn't, would you? Yeah, you'd only have one free.
Yeah, I'm very
So
anti-Salah. I'm very anti-Salah at the moment.
why? Has it not been great?
Hasn't so my thing with people saying that he's got 24 points and Haaland has 24 points is looking at it from the perspective of opportunity cost. You look at Haaland and the next forward, right? And yeah, sure, like Danny Welbeck's there, but realistically, no one was going for him. So it's Havertz, and that's a 10-point difference. Whereas the difference between Salah and the next best is like what? There's Palmer on 19, there's Son on 18, there's Saka on 18, and everyone's all just a little bit closer. And just in one game, that could easily turn. He could find himself third, fourth. So yeah, sure, you get 2.5 million extra, but where are you going to spend the money to really, make it worthwhile? Like, yeah, sure, you can get an extra premium defender, but overall, the 4.5s at the moment have been pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I like Trent more than I like Salah, but I'm not crazy about him at the moment. I wouldn't captain him in game week 4. I'd definitely captain Haaland. So
Yeah.
the only week I'd really want him is game week 5.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
tough one. When you get to 5, is
Yeah.
that not you got to be a little bit worried there. So what would you do instead?
I might just plan on getting lucky. I think you got to get a little bit lucky at
That's
times,
fair.
and we can't own them all, right? So if
No.
I'm gonna take a bet, I'd much rather take a bet against Salah than Haaland. So I think I'm good to do it in 5. I have no plans on owning him, and to be honest, I haven't really been that scared, apart from maybe gaming on a little bit, but I'm not really scared about not owning him either.
I tell you what, when you get to game week 5, the teams it's looking a little bit ropey. You got Gabriel City away, which genuinely isn't awful.
Yeah.
We've seen him keep clean sheets there before, but yeah, no Salah, who's the clear standout. Who would you captain? Obviously, we're jumping ahead here, but who would you captain in game week 5? You thought about that with no Salah?
Yeah, I think Palmer has West Ham away, if
Yeah.
I'm right. Yeah, I think I'm going Cole.
Oh, tell you, this is a make or break sort of week depending on
I
Salah.
don't think
Gaming
it's that.
rating of 81%. It's not great, not great.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad though, and I think like
Uh,
my team will be strong enough outside of those weeks whereby one, it can offset it, and two, all that has to happen is Salah doesn't have to have a parabolic game and it'll be cool. As long as he doesn't haul, it'll be fine.
that's true, and we saw this week as well. Like, a lot of players are doing exceptionally well.
Hmm.
And there were teams that didn't have Haaland even that did well.
Yeah,
My dad had no Haaland. He just captained Son, and he got the same amount of points as me. And I,
Yeah.
had a pretty good week. So you can do well. Maybe you do have to get a little bit lucky, but as long as your other players and you're still spending the money on other great players. Like
Yeah.
you'd expect Palm to do well in that game. Maybe not as well as Salah, but he's not going to be miles off it. You'd hope.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like all I have to just hope is that Salah doesn't go parabolic, and
Yeah.
all Palmer matches him, just one of the two. And I think I'm not asking for too much there.
No, that is fair enough. Now, normally at this point in the video, I'd ask, well, we'd have a look at your AI recommended transfers, but
Hmm.
you've already made one, so we don't have to do that. But guys, if you would like to see what the AI is recommending for your team, if you haven't already made a transfer, then click the link in the description and go ahead and sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. It's still 50% off, and if you don't win your mini league, you will still be refunded all of your money come the end of the season. So it's still a great time to do it. And yeah, I think, to be fair, mate, I think that's covered most things. Anything that we've potentially missed?
Probably captaincy, apart from the fact that like it's a very obvious call that I'm definitely going Haaland. That's about it.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that briefly. Saka, not too far behind in terms of the predicted points, but is it an obvious one?
I'm just so bullish on Haaland this year.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
I remember like my one prediction preseason was that he breaks his goal scoring records. He started well.
Started pretty well.
Yeah, he started pretty well. He's on for 76 at the
Yeah,
moment.
exactly. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm not interested in taking the armband off him at any point. It feels so safe just knowing that like at least I'll get one goal a game. I can't really see he'll make a minimum 3 good chances from a game, right? He'll take one of them probably. Then he's got penalties as well. And that's just the floor. So yeah, I'm very comfortable captaining him every single game.
Yeah, I'm completely the same as that. I think, yeah, people might be tempted by Saka at home to Brighton, but I just don't think there's really that much of a comparison between the two of them.
Yeah, same.
Is there anything to be said in terms of going for a midfielder instead of a forward though? And you mentioned earlier the 24 points versus 24 points.
Yeah.
Is that a debate at all? Just because Saka could easily keep a clean, Arsenal could keep a clean sheet in that game. You're looking at 11 points there potentially for one goal, whereas Haaland would have to get 2.
Yeah, so I think in times gone previous that would make a lot more sense. But with the change to the bonus structure, I think we have seen forwards be rewarded a little bit more as a result. And I think if it's a normal forward versus midfielder debate, I'm a lot more open to it. But I'm just not open to captaining anyone but Haaland at the moment. Like I have given it some thought, but I just think he's so clear of everybody else, both in terms of floor and ceiling. I like the fixtures for City as well. I don't think West Ham away is a bad one for them. and him. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very comfortable just captaining him.
Fair enough. Well, you've made me feel better about that as well, to be honest. I was, 90%
Yeah.
Haaland, but yeah, I think it's got to be done. All right, mate. Thank you very much. Thanks for the
Pleasure.
tips and advice. Hopefully,
Pleasure.
for another green arrow for you next week. You've had a very. I mean, I think I've had a pretty good start, to be fair, but
Yeah, you have.
I'm not at 600k. But my plan
Yeah.
is to roll transfers until I can roll no more.
Good,
Probably
good,
not even
good.
optimal, but just might as well.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah,
like no one's touched 5 yet, so you may as well be the first
might
person
as
to do
well.
that.
Might as well. Guys, if you enjoyed this one and you want more from Jian, then his Twitter has been on screen all video. Go and follow him over there. You'd be one of many thousands to follow him. So yeah, you wouldn't be the first. Some great threads every week, which I look out for. Also, YouTube channel as well now, my friend, right? How's it going?
Yeah,
Link
it's
in the
good.
description, guys. Go and check it out first of all. But yeah, you're making consistent videos.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. And I'm just looking to make them better and better and better, similar to the threads. So yeah, go and check that out.
Nice one. All right. Last thing to do, make sure to subscribe to the channel. First of all, we're closing in on 100,000 subscribers, and go and sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. We will catch you on the next one. Good luck this game week.